Okay. Welcome to our first IWA water loss webinar of 2026. And today we've got a little treat for you. We're going to look at in situ lining at Yorkshire Water, something that we've not actually covered on these webinars beforehand. We're very lucky and blessed to have Alex Spivey of Yorkshire Water, who is the chair of expert in situ lining group, which is a group we have in the UK, has about 15 members on it. And I'm sure we'll learn a little bit more about that and about in situ lining on there. So Alex is going to send the time over to you. Afterwards, we will have time for some question and answers. If, as Alex goes along, you think of a question, please just put it into the chat and we'll ask Alex at the end. So, Alex, we'll hand over to you.
Brilliant, thank you, Mikhail. Yep, no, hi everybody. So yeah, just a little bit about me. So Alex Spivey, lead project manager at Yorkshire Water and the chair of the Expert In-Situ Lining Group. So today, as it says as the title, I'm going to be talking about in-situ lining at Yorkshire Water and showing you a bit of a presentation around the programme that we did in AMP7, just to give a bit of visibility for what we'd like to be doing into AMP8 and future, just to let you know that in-situ lining, semi-structural lining, it's still apparent. It's just something that the determination has for the mains replacement aspects of work is kind of discouraged a little bit. So yeah, just to let you know, this tool is still out there, and just give you a bit of visibility and show you the benefits of semi-structural in situ lining that we've been doing at Yorkshire for the last 30 years, but more recently a programme that we did in AMP7. So I'll just jump into the presentation. So yeah, just a little bit of an overview regarding the program that we carried out in AMP7. So in September 2023, there were 6 worst performing DMAs that were promoted for mains renewal/replacement by service delivery. 3 of the DMAs within this program were identified for semi-structural in situ lining. So with regards to the lining, the 3 projects that we highlighted out of the programme, they suffer from water quality issues, high mains failures and high CML levels within the DMAs that the mains were going to be repaired. They were also situated in city centres and highly domesticated areas. So yeah, a lot of external stakeholder interface with some of these projects that we did carry out. The objective of the lining programme was to renew approximately 9 kilometres of clean water mains using the Renewal 320 product. The Renewal 320 product is a DWI Reg 31 approved product, and it's applied to the hose pipe post-cleaning by vortex by air, which is the method that we use to clean and dry the pipe before application. And this paint is applied by a lining rig and a hose that will apply a fast-setting spray coating onto a clean hose pipe. So just in terms of the main diameters that were targeted on this programme, targeted spanned over 3-inch up to 12-inch throughout the programme, with the wide ranging diameters, and also different thicknesses of lining material was applied on the semi-structural dependent on the main size. As you can probably imagine, 3-inch smaller application, with a 12-inch it was a larger. So yeah, the rig setting must be set for a minimum of 3mm application for each lining that's undertaken. Like I said, with the 12-inch lining, a greater thickness was applied for that. So I'll move on to the next slide just to give you a little bit of, and future slides, just a bit of detail regarding what a day in the lining looks like at Yorkshire Water. So we'll start off at the beginning. So we'll look at the vortex by air. So this is the first part of the lining process, and this is the cleaning aspect. So as the isolation period starts, a 2-hour 59-minute window, the main will be isolated and cut out from usually from valve to valve. So we isolate from valves further up the network, and we usually go from fitting to fitting in an ideal scenario. So what will happen is the main will have a vortex by air blown down to remove any standing water, which is carried out by the whirlwind aspect of the rig that you can see on there. Once the whirlwind's gone in and cleaned the hose pipe, a granite and flint aggregate or water, depending on the main type, will be taken and transported down the main, and it causes like a vortex. If you think about it, your plug hole, when water's swirling down into the plug hole, that's the sort of motion that the stone and flint tends to take its course through from the first pit into the second pit. And yeah, that works down there just to take any incrustation on that on the hose pipe that we're going to be applying the liner to. Once we've done the stone and water that's been transported down the hose pipe, a CCTV survey will be carried out to assess the condition of the pipe, and it'll also determine whether or not the contractor is happy for the lining to be taken place and that Yorkshire Water as the client are happy as well. So the decision, I said, it'll be held at the contractor at their risk, but the utility rep, which is always the client, will intervene if there's any concern regarding CML or any defects that we can see from the flint or water that's any damage that may be caused. So I'll just flick on to the next slide, and this just gives you a bit of an overview drawing of how the whirlwind and the vortex by air does work. So like I said, it's just a combination of wind and aggregate that kind of creates a tuberculation effect that cleans the main. So yeah, it just whirls down and it just takes any incrustation, trying to get back to the existing or the pre-existing diameter, internal diameter of that pipe. So yeah, you tend to have bowser at the top, the blower unit, pipe through, and then you'll have your aggregate catcher at the other side where we're going to be lining from. In terms of the vortex by air, so the diameters that we can carry out this method of cleaning is between 3 inch and 8 inch diameters, wind and aggregate. So yeah, roughly about 300 meters of 6 inch mains, and it cleans and dries within an hour. So yeah, it's quite a lengthier process of the 2 hour 59-minute window shut off period. Anything larger than that, it'll be more traditional cleaning methods. It'll be drag scraping. It's the one that we tend to use on the larger diameters. So we'll just go into the aspects of the lining train. So the image on your right, as you can see, that's what a genuine day looks at Yorkshire Water. So it looks like a lot of plant and machinery that's on site. But again, for that day that we'll have been lining that day, it'll been 100 meters and would have been moving down the street. So it's a short-term disruption for a long-term benefit, as we tend to say on all of our notice boards on the when you're working out on the street. So the lining train. So the first part that we tend to do before any lining activities is carried out, we carry out 3 weight checks. So this is to determine that the rig and the paint is operational. So the weight checks, there's a tolerance limit in the IFU document and the WIS, which are the two instruction documents for any lining apparatus to be carried out. So yeah, once the weight checks have been carried out and are approved, the contractor has an hour to start lining the pipe, or another 3 weight checks will have to be carried out. So again, that's as per the IFU and the WIS. So once we've done that and that's all agreed and within tolerance, the ferret wire and swab will be pushed through the lining hose, and a spin up of 30 seconds will be carried out. During this time, dip cards will be taken as well to ensure that the hose pipe ensure that the structural properties of the mixed paint is sufficient for the linings before we put anything onto the hose pipe. So yeah, you'll see that on the next slide of what the dip cards look like. So we take 3, so with 10-second intervals, just to ensure that the paint's uniform and it looks correct. So yeah, we do that before we put the lining head into the main, and then we'll also carry that out after the lining head's been removed from the main as well, just to ensure that we've got a continuous paint mixture throughout that process of the lining. So yeah, once the dip cards are taken out and the team's satisfied with the outcome of the dip card, the lining head will then be placed into the main, and the lining rig will then transport the hose back towards the rig, controlled by an approved flow rate. So as part of the lining rig that is just behind the tractor on there, the lining rig does have it's got a computer mechanism within it. So if anything does go out of tolerance, it will alarm and the lining will stop. So yeah, there's a lot of safety features in for this. We wouldn't, if the flow rate does increase, and it affects the structure of the lining, then yeah, the rig will pick that up and sound an alarm to ensure that something's gone wrong there. But yeah, that monitors all the flows, the thickness that's being applied at, the speed. So yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into that computer. So yeah, it's a very good piece of kit, as we tend to say on site for this one. So yeah, the flow rate, that'll be set to meet the requirements of the main. So the main size is the key factor into the flow rate being allocated. So an automatic setting will be set on the rig so that the flow rate is controlled via the rig throughout the process. And if there's an issue that arises, also a manual override can be carried out by one of the rig operators. If there's any issues with the thickness or the flow rate, an alarm, like I said before, raise. And yeah, the tolerance is 10% as per the WIS. And if that exceeds the WIS as well, the rig will shut down. So yeah, there's a lot of precautionary measures in there, and a lot of measures that can be taken and rectified with the rig that's being used. So yeah, you'll be able to see a little bit more of the images on the right hand side there. So that's what the skid tends to look like, what goes into the hose pipe. We have started using carbon 3D skids as well. So this is something that Booker Shaw have been procuring now. And again, it's a 3-inch skid. So historically, we have had issues with trying to line 3-inch pipes. So we had quite a lot of that on one of the projects in York, where we had a lot of 3-inch mains, and of historically we've not been able to line around those due to the bends. But with this new procured 3-inch carbon 3D skid, we've had a lot more joy with getting round bends. And yeah, we saw a massive intake of 3-inch mains that we were able to line. So a really good success story for this program. And then just below there are the dip cards. So yeah, it's just a visual check and a touch check to ensure that the paint looks uniform and mixed correctly. So we'll just go through the next part of the train. So yeah, once the head has exited the hose pipe, so the exit dip card will be taken to ensure that the paint's been constant throughout the lining of the hose pipe. And once the dip cards have been taken, the hose will then be deactivated and the curing time pre-CCTV will then commence. So with the Resiline 320 material, it takes an hour to fully cure, but you can CCTV the main once the line has been applied after 15 minutes. So it's a curing time pre-CCTV, and that's as per the IFU of the lining material that's been approved by the DWI. So once the CCTV is carried out, the pipe has to be applied correctly with the full coverage of the hose pipe. So it's just checking, it's a visual check just to make sure that full coverage is apparent on the hose pipe now, and there's no defects, i.e. missed joints, any block ferrules, for example, unmixed material. And that's something that the client will do. So Yorkshire Water in this instance will have a utility rep on site that'll be checking for the quality assurance of the work that's been carried out. So yeah, once that the main's carried out, its full 1 hour curing time. The whirlwind will then connect. It's got a chlorination unit to spray the new lining at 1,000 parts per million to disinfect the main. So yeah, that's another aspect of the whirlwind that we've got on the site. So it's part of there's a separate rig for chlorination as well on the big unit that I showed you previously. So yeah, once pieced up, the water will be turned back on, and then a sample will be taken just to ensure that we're complying with the water quality regs. So yeah, and again, all this has to be done within 2 hours and 59 minutes. So yeah, you can appreciate there's a lot of exercise and a lot of tasks to carry out. But yeah, we've had a very good success rate with working within the 2 hour 59-minute window for short periods. So yeah, really good success story from this. I'll just move on to my next slide. So this is just a little bit of just an image oriented slide, just showing you what the cleaning and lining does tend to look like at different points. So yeah, the photo on your left is at the top, sorry, is Snig Hill at West Bar Green. So that's a 4-inch asbestos cement pipe. So yeah, as you can see, same pits, just an hour and 20 minutes after each other. So that's post cleaning into lining. So yeah, you can tell a massive difference. Uniform application of lining in there. So that's a really good example. And then, as I was mentioning before about the issues we've had with 3-inch pipe work. So this is Chestnut Avenue at York, so 3-inch cast iron. And again, the stone will have gone down the cast iron just to get rid of any incrustation. And the image on your bottom right is just the post lining. So again, exactly the same place. Yeah, really good uniform lining. So yeah, that's just a bit of a visual representation of just a bit of a before and after lining for you guys there. In terms of the quality assurance and the documentation that has to be carried out from the client and the contractor when carrying out the lining works, there's 7 assurance documentation that we need to carry out for every single lining that's completed. So we've got a CCTV of the cleaning, CCTV of the lining, then a CCTV report has to be carried out by the utility rep and the contractor. A quality assurance document has to be carried out. The dip cards have to be saved and stored in the contractor logbook. The rig printout. So yeah, on the lining rig. So after every single lining, and the hoses are disconnected and the rig shuts off, a printout will be then issued to the rig operator to give that to the utility rep just to prove and a bit of an audit trail of everything that's been carried out on site that day and what the unit the flow rate's been and the thickness that's been applied for that section of lining. And then also a non-conformance record has to be carried out as well. So if there's anything that we see with any defects, that's where anything will be placed on that document there. So in terms of how this is all documented, so the quality assurance document, non-conformance record, and the CCTV report, they're carried out on a work mobile app. So yeah, that's for all the audit forms and the QA, and then that's once they're completed, they get issued straight to a Yorkshire Water SharePoint site. So that's a good tool that we tend to use from and a quick transporter from site straight onto this site, so anybody can access that from a Yorkshire Water point of view. Just in terms of the outcomes, so kind of highlights of the lining program. So over 9 kilometres of the water main has now been successfully renewed by using semi-structural lining over the 3 projects. So in terms of the whole lining program, it's now complete as per its AMP7 program. The semi-structural lining did provide a cost saving of £560,000 on West Bar Green due to the method of renewal being chosen over replacement. So yeah, the West Bar Green project was in the centre of Sheffield. So yeah, it's a 12-inch main up the centre of Sheffield. So yeah, using the semi-structural lining over the traditional method of open cut, which was selected originally, yeah, it's provided a saving of £560,000. And then in terms of using semi-structural lining as well, we've outlined a 40% carbon expenditure saving. So in comparison to works that have been carried out by traditional methods, yeah, we've had our carbon team carry out a couple of exercises for us to understand and determine what sort of saving it has made, because it tends to over 100 meters. We've got 2 pits that are open, so instead of having 100 meters of open excavation, it has made a significant saving on the a significant saving on the carbon aspects of the work. I'm just going to highlight as well for you just an individual project that we did carry out on Stockton Lane. So just in terms of so if we're looking at AMP8 cap on now with unit rate for the major replacement program, so just a little bit of visibility for you guys just to see. So over at Stockton Lane, so there were 4,671 metres of scope that was carried out via rehabilitation/renewal, and that ranged over 6-inch to 3-inch, predominantly cast iron at that location. So the 2 options that we did have originally, like I've mentioned previously about open cut, and the other option was semi-structural lining. So the open cut cost that we did total was 1.73 million. So that would give us a unit rate of £370 a metre, which still it's a competitive rate, but with using semi-structural lining on that aspect of works, yeah, we did get the total delivery price down to £925,000, and that gave us a unit rate of £198 a metre for that project. So again, and also with option 2 with the semi-structural lining, it saved us a total of 16 weeks in comparison to the option 1 as well. And that again, that's just down to the constructability of the semi-structural lining solution. Like I said, 2 excavations, 2 small pits, reception pit, just to get in, line the pipe, move, and we just go down to the next. So yeah, on average, I think the lining, sorry, but take a little breath there. The lining team did end up carrying out a week. I think we were looking at about 450 to 550 meters, just depending on the areas where we were lining, if there were any bends or any acute bends that we needed to look at working around or lining from different sections. So yeah, roughly 450 to 550 meters a week we were carrying out on this project. Just in terms of some of the key learnings as well, whilst on site, it was the big thing was the cleaning time. So using the whirlwind and preparing ferrules, that created a massive savings with the cleaning process. So it got us a lot further down to the 2-hour 59-minute window period. Like I said, it's very fast-paced process to carry out, especially within 2 hours and 59 minutes. So the site team carrying out the works, we're just finding ways to help with the cleaning process. So yeah, we got that a lot further, a lot lower down to make sure that we were still keeping compliant within the 2-hour 59-minute window. Again, methods that we used to prepare the ferrules before lining was ferrule sucking. So on the 3-inch pipe, for example, we had a lot of issues with block ferrules just due to the thickness of the pipe, the thickness of the material. Applying it at 3 mil, it was just causing a bit of an issue of covering of ferrules due to the smaller internal diameter and with the minimum coverage that we have to apply to the pipe. Yeah, so what we tended to do was ferrule sucking. So we'd do a bit of a surcharge on the taps just to, once the cleaning had been carried out, just quickly open the tap to pull out any sediment that might have got into the ferrule, and then just put another swab down to clean. So yeah, that was a good saving from the site team there. And like I mentioned before as well, just the manufacturing of the carbon fiber skids as well. So it gives us the ability to line around more acute bends that we probably wouldn't have attempted in the past with 3 inch with experience of the site team that have carried the works out in the past. So yeah, that's a little bit about the good savings of what we've carried out, and just going into AMP8 now as well. So as per the Ofwat determination for mains replacements, that's the big driver in the team that I operate in now. Semi-structural lining has been discontinued or discounted as a method of mains replacement due to its semi-structural form. So if it was a fully structural liner, we'd be able to look at exercising something in that sort of realm. Just at the moment, we haven't got anything that's available with a fully structural. And I know that there's a designer liner group that are currently doing some really good work on getting a fully structural liner that we can apply and hopefully use in future amps. But yeah, just at the time being, just to let you know, this is something that is still available. We've still got two companies that are supplying pipe work, the paint, sorry, for this work. And yeah, it can be used for any other sort of purpose. I know some companies are looking at using it for more expensive aspects of their works, i.e. if there's any rail crossings that might be classed as too expensive on the mains replacement programme, looking at just doing sections of lining that might not be counted towards the price control deliverable, but it's still promoting a bit of a benefit on and rejuvenating that asset that may be failing in those sort of areas. So yeah, just to let you know, it is a tool in the toolbox. It's something that is, like I said, Yorkshire have been using it for years. It's just something that we've probably not got as much of a focus on now as probably other water companies don't, just due to the determination and the amount of meterage that we're having to install with the mains replacement program. But yeah, if there's any questions, yeah, really happy to answer anything that you guys have got. And no, thank you for listening. Yeah, I'll stop sharing my screen now, and we'll just open up to any questions.
Thank you, Alex. Really appreciate that. If you've got any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or feel free to put your hands up, and I'm happy for you to verbally give your question to Alex. A couple of questions for you, and then I see we've got one from Gerald. So I guess the premise is that this is quicker, this is cheaper, this is carbon saving doing this. Does it stay as long as a renewal? So if you put in a new, I guess, pipe work now, you would expect it to last 50, 60, 70 years. How long will this in situ lining last? And I guess really kind of underneath that, Alex, is the question, is it actually a false economy? Do we actually have to do this in 10 years' time or 20 years' time? So I just wondering if you could answer that question.
Yeah, no, really good question. So, yeah, the old lining materials that we did tend to use, I think the asset life on that was a lot less. But using the Resiline 320 material, the assurance life now it does span. I think it is. I might be wrong in this. It's been a while since I've seen the document, but it is over 50 years asset life. I think it's 50 to 75 years. It might be 75 years, but again, it's not a 10-year period where we need to go back and then replace it. It is a longer term lifespan now. And I know Resiline at the moment are carrying out some tests to see what the tensile strength is, and some of the reports have come back that it's got a stronger tensile strength than some PVC mains as well that they're looking at. So yeah, there's a few more tests that they are carrying out at the moment, and we're just getting a bit more background on that. But yeah, it's a longer term lifespan of the longer lifetime material. So yeah, over 50 years.
Brilliant, excellent to hear. Gerald Murphy's got a question. What stops the grit going up the ferrule and the lining blocking the ferrules? Do the swabs in service pipe lift the lining off before penetrating the liner?
So again, another good question. So in terms of what sorts of ferrules, the grit going up into the ferrules. So again, this is part of the ferrule sucking that we carried out. So and this is something that we started to use more often on the throughout the program once we'd discovered this sort of method. Just if there's any water that's left in from where the stop tap is, just between that section of where the ferrule is to the stop tap, just opening that back up, and it just caused a little surcharge to push any sediment back into the pipe work. And then what we'd do is from there, then we'd just throw another swab down just to clean up any debris that has come out of any of the ferrules. So yeah, that was the method of how we prevented that, and that became very, very successful. Because to start off with, we had a blockage rate on streets, I'd say probably of 60% of the properties. So yeah, it was something very quickly that we did have to adjust to make sure that we were trying to prevent as many blockages as we can. But then over the program, I think by the end of it, I think the rate was down to about 10%. So it was, yeah, again, it works. It sometimes works, but again, we seem to see a lot of benefit from that. And in terms of the swabs in service, in the service pipe, lift the lining off before they penetrate in the liner. It wouldn't do. No, like I said, the swabs are all taken after the CCTV and after an hour curing. So yeah, there wouldn't be anything that would lift the liner from that aspect of it. It'll be all cured in place.
Okay. And just to understand a little bit how you do this. So this is just going on the main. So there'll be no renewal of any communication pipes or any service pipes. This is essentially
No.
just the main on
Yeah,
there.
it's just that's it. It's just the main on these ones. Yeah, it's just the piece of work that we tend to promote with this one is just predominantly the mains that are failing. Yeah, there's no comms or supply pipe that'll be replaced as well.
Okay. And so does that lead to this perhaps happening more in rural areas or more in city centres? When Yorkshire were doing this in AMP7, and you may well again do it in AMP8, and hopefully in
Yeah,
AMP9, I get the impression that you'd like to do that
yeah.
again. Are these city centres or difficult areas that it's hard to kind of get the mains off or have that road out for a long time?
Yeah, I think it all, yeah, like I said, there's different criteria. So at the moment we've got a lot, and I'll say more of an AMP8 example. It's a little bit of a kick that we can't use this material now or this application. We've got schemes in the centre of Harrogate, for example. So predominantly notorious area where a lot of work always goes on in these sort of areas, disruption to customers, things like that. Those sort of areas are the perfect example of where you want to really carry out your lining because there's a lot of bespoke reinstatement that you have to carry out there. Same in York, and this is why we identified the Sheffield scheme, for example, busy city centre road that we were working on. And yeah, it's disruption. Like I said, it brings it to a minimal. Like I said, if we can line 100 meters in a day, that saves probably a couple of weeks of open cutting in a city centre, town centre. So yeah, it'll be wherever the need is really. Ideally, we'd try and line as much as we could if it was a determination acceptance for mains replacement. But yeah, it's something that we tend to do if it's the right thing to do really. So water quality might be the big thing. If we've got a main that's in really poor condition and the main shot, as we say in the industry, it might not be something that we use because we're probably applying a liner onto something that's in really poor brittle condition. So yeah, condition assessments are carried out on the pipe work as well before we do any form of lining, just to ensure that it will be able to take the liner on application. Because like I said, it's a semi-structural liner; it's not a fully structural liner at the moment. So yeah, it still needs to have some form of integrity within that hose pipe to facilitate the liner that's going onto it.
Okay. And several times through your presentation, you mentioned this 2 hour, 59 minutes. So we've got quite a few people that are not from the UK here, and
Okay.
have been watched around the world. So tell us why this 2 hour, 59 minutes is so vital in the UK, why we can't have the water off for longer than that.
Yes, so the 2 minute 59 minute window is 2 hour 59 minute window is a isolation period that has been agreed with our regulators now. So if we exceed that, it's a customer minutes lost, and there's significant financial penalties towards any water company that breaches that exceeding time limit of the 2 hour 59 minute window. So yeah, there's a lot of compliance with that, and it's part of a lot of KPIs for the business as well to comply with. So yeah, it's something that we we don't like to operate without the 2 hour 59 minute window. It's you can't really do it. You can put overland and temp supplies on to facilitate it sometimes with lining if you're in a more rural area. But again, city centre area, it's like I said, it is a very a very hectic period. So if you saw a day of lining, it's there's nobody stood around as people tend to see have that sort of mentality when they see people on the roadworks. But yeah, it surely isn't that case when we're lining. So yeah, a lot of financial penalty and an issue if we do exceed that, and that's yeah, any isolation works on clean water assets.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone on the call that would like to ask a question, verbally ask a question or write it in the Q&A? Okay, I've got one more question. If you do, please put your hand up. I've got one more question for you, Alex, and it is, how thick is this lining? So obviously you're going down to 3 inches. Does it have a significant effect on the, I guess, pipe diameter, on the internal pipe diameter?
So I wouldn't say it does, no. So a lot of the mains that we do tend to to work on, and what we're when we're cleaning it back to its existing condition. So a lot of incrustation is on like cast iron pipes, for example, asbestos cement that we have worked on. Due to the incrustation that's built up over these years, because some of these mains that we've replaced have been installed from the 30s, 50s. So the incrustation over the 70 to 80 years that has been, well, that pipe's been in place, we are restoring it back to its existing diameter, or the pre-condition diameter, shall we say, when it was first installed. So the 3 mm minimum application that we have to install, yeah, it's only a 3 mm liner. So your tolerance for that is, I think it's 15 mil at 0.15 mil either side. So it'll, so yeah, your minimum you'll go on is 2.85 mm. So yeah, in terms of the internal diameter, in theory, if you go off from the day that we're rejuvenating it to when it's in place, we probably are increasing the diameter at that time. So yeah, we are increasing diameter for the mains that we are working on. It just depends on the incrustation of the main as well. That's the big factor.
Okay, so you clean off the incrustation, which has probably already made it
Yes.
a smaller diameter.
Yeah,
You're then
that's
putting
it.
a 3 mil on there, so actually it's probably possibly ends up, Alex, as a slightly larger diameter than what you than before you did the in situ lining, if I
Exactly,
understand you
yeah.
correctly.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
correct, yeah.
okay. We have a question from Mohammed, so thank you for that. Does the initial vortex cleaning remove all the biofilms from the host pipe?
So it will do. I think again, it depends on the pipework that we are install that we're going to be rejuvenating as well. So yeah, if there's any like cement liner, for example, that's on there, it just takes a bit of the incrustation off there, and then it'll coat that over as soon as we put that new lining on. So yeah, it does. The vortex there will remove. I think it does remove biofilms, yeah, from the hose pipe, and then the application will recover that.
Okay, brilliant. Alex, thank you for being our first presenter on the IWA Water Loss webinar this year. This will be on YouTube within the next 24 hours. Really, really appreciate it very much. Okay, have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you for coming to this webinar, and we'll see you at the next one. Thanks a lot. See you. Bye
Okay,
bye.
no, cheers. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
all.
Bye bye. Thank you, Alex.